Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my Karen daughter demands my $2,000 mattress. My partner, 59 male, and I, 53 female, have a 4-bedroom house, and one of his kids, 25-year-old daughter, is still living at home. She's about to move out, and she's been searching for nearby apartments. While she's been looking at unfurnished options, since there aren't any furnished apartments available, we haven't had any discussion about what items she might take from the house. Recently, she applied for an apartment she thought would work for her. On the way back home, she brought up the idea of taking some things from the bedroom upstairs, including a very expensive mattress that was a gift from someone my partner used to work for. She's hesitant to buy a new mattress because she's uncertain about her plans for the coming year. I initially declined her request, explaining that moving such a large and valuable mattress up and down the stairs could damage it. I suggested an alternative mattress from a different bed, which would be easier to move, but she found it uncomfortable. I must admit, it's not in the best condition, as she has used it for several years. To find a compromise, I proposed buying a new mattress that she could use for her new place. If she decides she doesn't want it later, we could use it as a replacement for the uncomfortable one. Or if she decides to keep it, she could purchase it from us. I even mentioned that I'd probably waive the cost if it came down to that, but I wanted to set realistic expectations. However, she remains insistent on having the expensive mattress and doesn't understand why I won't just give it to her. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to keep a nice mattress for our spare bed? She was offered a new mattress at the inn for free and refused because she wants the expensive one. Not the jerk. I don't agree with all the comments saying she should have let her have the mattress. If it was my expensive mattress and my daughter asked for it, then I'd probably say no as well, and I'm very generous with my daughter. OP has offered to pay for a decent mattress for her. It's not like she's refusing to help at all. The only difference I'd make here would be that I'd say I'd gift her the new one. Not the jerk. So you'd rather have the nice mattress in an empty room that someone may stay in every once in a while than your stepdaughter who's starting her adult life and would be benefiting from it daily? You're the jerk. If nobody's using it and the daughter has been, it's her bed. Why would you not let her take it? The excuse that it might get damaged is absurd. This isn't about being entitled. When all 3 of my kids moved out, they took whatever they wanted from their rooms. I wonder what your response would be if she were your daughter and not your stepdaughter. My husband is angry that I won't give him my student loan refund to help with bills. I'm a stay-at-home mom and receive $500 bi-weekly from my husband's paychecks to pay for things like our son's preschool, gas for the car, groceries, things the kids need, etc. My husband makes somewhere around $4,500 per month, but I'm not sure because he won't tell me for sure what he brings in. I'm in school, and for the last 2 years, I've been maxing out my student loans so that I can supplement my income, because what I get from my husband is not enough to last the month. I do not ask my husband for additional money. I do not use any of his credit cards, and I very minimally use Amazon or shop online. My husband knows that I have to supplement with my student loan refunds and will occasionally ask me if I need him to give me more money, but I always tell him no. Things are tight, but I make it work. We're in the process of switching over our medical insurance to my husband's work insurance, which will cost more than what we currently pay. My husband told me yesterday that he thinks it would be a good idea to give him my student loan refund so he can use it on bills for the rest of the year until I get another check. I didn't respond to him out of shock. He brought it up again later, and I told him that I didn't feel that I could talk about it right then because I didn't want to end up in a fight. He kept pushing me about it, and I told him that I wasn't going to give him the money. He got angry, and he's now ignoring me. The reason I don't want to give him the money is because I know it won't go to bills. He has packages coming in the mail from all sorts of websites almost every day. He spent almost $900 on Amazon in the span of 30 days. He gets fast food all the time. Anytime I ever try to talk to him about this spending, he tells me that he busts his butt for that money, and since he knows how much money we have, it isn't any of my business what he buys. He told me if I don't give him the money, he's going to lower the amount he gives me from his paychecks. He doesn't give me access to any of the online banking at all, but one bank account is solely in his name. I also have no idea what any of our bills are. I'm not asking for financial advice. I know our marriage isn't healthy, and we've discussed divorcing recently. When we discuss divorce, he gets angry. He cuts off the direct deposits, shuts my phone off, takes the car, and more until I tell him sorry and that I won't divorce him. I don't think that I'm wrong for saying no until he stops his excessive spending. ETA. I was able to access his email via his iPad. All apps are locked down with his fingerprint, so I can't check banking apps and things like that. I've gathered that he has at least 8 credit cards. Only 2 of those cards show me the remaining balances on them. Between those 2 cards, it's $13,000. I was also able to see our mortgage and monthly bill amounts. I can also see some of the banking statements emails from different accounts that he has. I can see 4 different bank accounts, but I can't access the actual statements without the passwords. I've made notes of all of this. From what I can see about our monthly bills, the total is about $2,000. This doesn't include the payments that he's making on the credit cards each month. I want to say thank you to so many kind commenters who are understanding of the position I've fallen into. Tomorrow I'll be going to the courthouse for divorce paperwork, and I will be figuring out the lawyer situation. See an attorney immediately. Never mention divorce again, and quietly plan your escape. Neighbor of property I work at tries to get free service. I own a small landscaping business with my husband. This morning, we showed up to our job with our truck and trailer for a day of weeding at a long-neglected property. It's trash day in the neighborhood, and in order to back the trailer in, I have to get out of the truck to move 2 garbage cans that are in the way. I move them both 1 foot off the road with the intention of moving them back afterwards. I assumed they were out in the road for visibility purposes. I then move to behind the trailer and guide my husband into the parking spot. It's very narrow. Husband gets out of the truck and we both look at the ocean as the waves are massive due to the impending storm, at least 10 feet high. Surfers are wiping out all over the place, and it's quite a sight. I counted over 60 surfers on my lunch break. 10 seconds into looking at the ocean, the neighbor comes out screaming at us about how the garbage truck driver can't see the cans and asked what I was doing. When I say he was screaming, I mean he was screaming. This guy chose violence and was looking to intimidate. I calmly responded that I was about to move the cans back. I was just looking at the ocean first. He seemed slightly embarrassed and muttered something like, "I'll move them, don't bother." 1 hour later, this guy catches my husband going to the truck and asks if he can put his lawn clippings in our trailer and take them to the dump with our other debris. No apology, no introductions, and like nothing had happened. My husband was taken aback in the moment and said yes, even though this is something we charge for. 30 minutes after that, he walks onto the property we're working at and says that he just pruned a juniper and asks if he can put those clippings in there too. I respond, "Sure, if you throw us a 20. He laughs and says, "Are you kidding? You're going to the dump anyway, right?" To which I respond, "Yes, and not only do they charge us by weight, but this is our job, and taking debris to the dump is a service we offer. We'll do it for 20. He laughs again and says, "They charge by weight? My debris weighs nothing." He huffs off and comes back with the $20. He was so mad, he wouldn't even look at me when he handed me the money. My guess, he thought we'd just say yes, and he'd already cut the juniper before asking. Then didn't have a way of getting rid of it. Couldn't put it in one of his 2 BMWs and didn't want it laying around his $4 million beach house. Another short while later, he catches my husband and tries to find out which dump we go to, because the one he suspects we go to doesn't charge by weight. Wrong dump. And also, it doesn't matter. We charge what we charge. My guy, you don't have to say yes to us taking your debris. We decide our rates, and this is what we charge. Take it or leave it. You came to us. We're not going door to door asking for people's yard clippings. There's a minimum charge of $25 at the dump, no matter how much you have. Just save the $5 and the trip to the dump and leave us alone. Give me a parking ticket for a spot I paid for? I dare you. About 10 or so years ago, I went to a concert an hour away from me in Indianapolis. Decided to make a day of it, going to several museums and spots around the city. Each time paying for parking in a garage for 2 or so hours, then going to meander around the area. Finally, I go park close to the venue and paid for parking until the time it was free. In total, I probably paid $40 to $50 for parking throughout the day. Enjoyed the concert, but come back to a parking ticket on my car. I think this is odd, but I'm tired and chalk it up to a mistake. But I decide to take photos of my parking spot. Both spots on either side were taken, and all the signage, and head home for the evening, figuring I would sort it out in the morning. The next morning, I review the ticket, the photo of my spot, and my parking receipt. The ticket did not line up to the spot my car was located in, and my receipt shows that I had valid parking at the time of the ticket. So I submit an appeal, thinking this will be easy. It's obviously a mistake. The appeal was denied. The ticket was for the spot that was not paid for, ergo it stood. I called the office, and the lady said they did not make a mistake, as my receipt showed that I paid for spot X1 and the ticket was for spot X. I asked about the photo proof that my car was in spot X1. She said, Well, you could have moved the car. Note that the parking receipt included my license plate number and everything. I noticed that there were cars in spots on either side of me and that the entire street was full because of the concert. And honestly, I don't think they bothered to look at the photo. Even had that not been the case, I had proof that my license plate had a paid parking spot. No matter what, no dice. I'm feeling petty over this $25 parking ticket at this point, so I called Visa and asked if I could retract the amount I paid for the time that I had parked since it didn't count. I submitted all the evidence and documentation to Visa. Visa, and what was the greatest thing Visa has ever done in my opinion, they agreed that if my parking receipt and transaction number wasn't proof I had paid for parking, then clearly I had paid for a service I did not receive, and they extended my initial request of canceling the one transaction to include all of the parking spots I had paid for throughout the system that day, valued at more than the parking ticket. Then they filed a formal complaint on my behalf with a letter explaining why they were refunding me. It would not have been nearly as satisfying if I had not spent the entire day playing tourist in the city and racking up a large parking bill all with the same vendor. Being complicated isn't cute or funny, it's straight up annoying. I had a group of 3 come in, older ladies, maybe in their 60s. I greeted them and asked what they wanted to drink, put in apps, and everything seemed to go well. Then I get their food order. First lady orders something regular. Second asks for a change on the kind of waffle she was having, no problem. The third, she asked me if she could make her own omelet. Her friends were already joking about how she's difficult and she can't even order off fast food menus without changing something. I laughed and told her no, that she had to pick one of the 3, cheese, veggie, or seafood, and she could add a breakfast meat or something. She quickly corrected me and said that that was the same thing. She proceeded to ask for a veggie, no onions, bell peppers, or tomatoes, leaving her with just spinach, and then tells me to add bacon and pico. I told her pico had tomatoes and onions and asked was she sure. She said she just didn't want it too tomatoey or oniony and that pico was fine. I said okay and put it in. She kept making jokes about how she's picky and this is typical of her and she's so quirky. They proceed to run me around. Napkins, a new drink, want to change drink, second person now wants to change drink, salt and pepper before food arrives, etc. And then when I finally get them settled, their food comes out. They ask me for a pat of butter, salsa, salt and pepper. Yes, again, they told me they were done. And some pancake syrup. In the midst of getting all these things, fourth person shows up and I asked what she wanted to drink. She tells me her friends need pancake syrup. I said I was already going to get it, but I was just trying to get her something to drink. She gives me her drink order with an attitude. They then have a 5th friend show up. They asked to put tables together and we said no, but offered a 5-top instead. When the woman gets there, they try to pull up a chair even though we already told them they'd have to move. They begrudgingly move and leave their old table in a mess, which I go to clean right as the 5th person sits down. As soon as she sits, her friend calls me and says she's ready to order. With dishes clearly in my hand, I tell her to give me a minute. I come back, ask her what she wants to drink, and she says, "No, I'm ready to order." I said, "Well, I need to ring in your drink too, so will you tell me what you want to drink and then what you want to eat?" She gives in. I go to check on her after she gets her food and say, "Did you get everything? Does it look all right?" She gestures to the food and rolls her eyes. This entire time, they're joking about how they are all difficult and picky, especially the omelet lady. When it was time to pay, the 5th lady paid for everyone and left a $3 tip on $97 bill. Worst part is, they caught my manager and asked was I new because they felt like they had to ask for everything. I wanted to scream. The only reason why you had to ask was A, you kept changing your drink and adding people, and B, because you never let me get a chance to grab it. It's not cute to go out and be difficult or purposefully picky. I have no issue with accommodation, but it truly felt like a game to them, and it was so frustrating. Management was not ready for my compliance. About 20 years ago, I worked in a call center at a budding payment processing company. The main performance metric was the time service factor, TSF, which required answering 80% of calls within 20 seconds. Due to a constant queue of calls, achieving this goal was impossible. Customers were unhappy, management was unhappy, the stage was set. Enter tech support. I was hired fresh out of high school to be the call center's sole tech support and handle customer-facing application migrations. In retrospect, they basically brought me on as a project manager and systems consultant, but I didn't know any better. Unfortunately, our telephone system did not direct callers based on specialization and skill sets. So when customers called in specifically for tech support, there was a 1 in 15 chance of getting the lone tech support agent. Instead of investing in more tech support staff and overhauling the phone system, management decided the best system was to have representatives physically line up at my desk. It was frustrating and extremely overwhelming to balance my migration projects and the queue of callers that were waiting for me. So I adapted by remaining in not ready as much as possible. Not ready means your line will only ring for direct calls, but only my team had direct line. Things were going smoother in terms of handling tech calls. People were lining up less, but management was not happy that the TSF goal was not being met. Then one day, my lead pulled me aside and confronted me with my telephone stats. My not ready times were 10x everyone else's, to which I reminded them that I'm the only technician, and if 14 other people were lined up at my cubicle, then they're clogging the lines with people on hold waiting for me. Management did not care. I had a special skill, but I was not special enough to be exempt from the metric. No more not ready. Cue malicious compliance. I pretended my not ready button no longer existed and went about being a rank and file call center rep. The moment I was done with one call, I had to pick up the next. This meant during migration waves and outages, there were moments where my entire team was lined up at my desk waiting to transfer their callers to me. After about 10 to 15 minutes of just seething by my cubicle's window, some began to confront me. I explained that I was forbidden from using not ready to keep my line open. The call queue would have to die down completely until my line was open to accept a transfer call. You could cut the tension with a knife. TSF continued to tank, then call abandon rates skyrocketed. Customers were unhappy, management was unhappy. So management did the obvious thing and hired more technicians, right? Nope. First, the new protocol was to post a sticky note with the customer's callback number and ticket number on my desk. Tell the customer to expect my callback, hang up, then take the next call. From then on, I was expressly only allowed to conduct the callbacks when there were fewer than 10 callers on hold. Second, they took 2 of the regular call center boomers and sat them with me to job shadow. Third, they tasked my lead with standing over my shoulder to observe my daily activities. What I showed the team lead was that for every 2 to 3 tickets I closed out, 10 more callback tickets would roll in. What he actually ended up doing was reprimanding me for having a high RONA, rollover not answered, count, because I'd let some calls roll over if they snuck in while I was doing morning callbacks. The nightmare finally ended with the mortgage crisis. Management's brilliant business ideas had led the company to insolvency. I jumped ship to complete my college education, then the company shut down about a year later. Would I be the jerk to not let my best friend move in with me after she, her boyfriend, and 4 kids got evicted? I'm 42. My BFF, who's 41, lives with her boyfriend and her 4 kids, who are 20, 17, 13, and 6, in a small 3-bedroom house. Her boyfriend is rather lazy and does the bare minimum, basically works 30 hours a week and sleeps or plays on his phone the rest of the time. Any home or car maintenance is usually done by myself or my husband. My BFF also works about 30 hours a week but does all the housework and childcare. They were both laid off during lockdown and didn't pay any rent or put anything aside from stimulus money. Rather, they spent it on frivolous items. Well, once things started getting back to normal again, they started paying rent but kind of ignored the 16 months they didn't pay. Again, spending whatever extra they had on unnecessary stuff. Well, she recently got a letter of eviction giving her until the 15th of next month to vacate. Both my husband and myself have encouraged her to talk with landlord, seek help from family, talk with the county, and even talk to legal aid. She has done none of this and instead decided to drink and bury her head in the sand. Now she has mentioned moving in with me and my family, my husband, our daughter, and our son. As much as I'd love to help her out, I just can't. I'm a neat freak. She's not. My kids attend school regularly. Hers miss a lot. My 17-year-old works a lot on top of school. Her 20-year-old lays in bed all day doing nothing but smoking and having guys over. Lastly, she has lots of pets, and I mean lots. 13 dogs and 14 cats. I have my own hobby farm, but they are well kept after and cleaned up after. Hers are not as much, and there's often messes around her house. So would I be the jerk to leave her, her family, and her pets to be homeless? I've offered to go with her to talk to organizations, but again, she's just ignoring it all. Wow, not the jerk. It's hard to see a scenario where your BFF is not trying to take advantage of you. Her life seems to be a mess of her own making, and she's not doing anything to make her situation better except asking others for freebies. For better or worse, I commend you for sticking by your BFF for as long as you have. Not the jerk. She's deeply irresponsible, and it shouldn't be you who deals with those consequences. She has options, she's just choosing the easiest one for her. Even just the humans moving in would be insane, and I want to bet you'd end up doing the chores along with your husband without help from anyone else. Also, 13 dogs and 14 cats in a small apartment? That's insane. You can't let this person encroach in your life any more than she already has. Her suggestion to move in with you under this circumstance, when it's not even the last resort, is selfish. Am I the jerk for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? I'm 16, female. My father, who's 46, is the breadwinner, while my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house, like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but really there's only so much I can do while my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to a huge argument daily between him and mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think that my dad is in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see how his behavior is, but to no avail. So what I did was pick a day off for him and pretended to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house, shouted, "I'm home!" then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes off while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me, confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, the kids needing to be quiet, and so on. He kept staring while mom and my siblings laughed. My younger brother kept pointing towards me, saying, "This is daddy." I then proceeded to yell about dinner, then went off on my mom for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me and in a serious tone asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was the common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the act and told him I was just trying to show him what he's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard, and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. Mom said it was funny, but also thought I hurt my dad's feelings, and I could have gotten the message across some other way instead. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You held up a mirror to his behavior and he didn't like what he saw. That's on him. I hope he gets the message. Not the jerk, first off, but I think you have a good chance here. Listen, please. You can acknowledge, "Hey Dad, I know that probably did hurt your feelings and I'm sorry. Of course you work hard and provide for us and we appreciate it, but I want you to see that your behavior hurts Mom's feelings. It hurts the family." The fact he went quiet instead of exploding in anger, to me says there's hope. Like many dudes his age, he struggles to process those emotions, but he recognized he was feeling more embarrassed and hurt than angry, it seems. The key is to understand and withhold judgment, to recenter the convo on not just his pain, but everyone's feeling pain and moving forward. That's tough, and you're a kid. It's not your responsibility to do it. You would be morally justified to say buzz off, but I always ask, do you want to win or be right? Being right often feels hollow. I hope you win. I just want to hop onto this excellent comment to add that I would also recommend you having a private chat with your mom. Explain to her that me acting like dad wasn't just about pointing out his bad behavior towards you. I also wanted to point out how your marriage affects the whole family. The daily fights and dad's yelling affects everyone. We all feel it when it gets to the time dad is due home and we prepare to listen to our dad to be mean to our mom. It affects all of us knowing our dad doesn't respect our mom. Every day we all watch your hard work. We've started trying to help you out because we know our dad doesn't appreciate or respect the hard work you do. It's so bad that younger brother recognized I was pretending to be dad so quickly, yet dad didn't know what I was doing until the last minute. But what affects me the most is knowing that despite all this, you always put dad's feelings first, before your own and before everyone else's. Even now, you're more concerned with how what I did hurt dad's feelings than you're concerned by how dad's behavior affects the rest of the family. Brother strongly associates that behavior with dad, while dad apparently has no idea he behaves like this, and your priority is me apologizing to dad, not changing this dynamic between you and dad, or asking Dad to apologize to us for making our atmosphere at home so awful every time he comes home from work. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Dad? Please let us know. Company did over long-term employees, and my boss' act of revenge helped me start a company for pennies on the dollar. For legal reasons, I can't disclose the exact location, purely because the team I worked with were cool guys and our boss did over corporate really hard without them noticing. This took place in 2012. Part 1. The Fire Marshal. I worked at a smaller chain electronics store that sold top-of-the-line video cameras, PCs, cell phones, photo cameras, and this new thing called 4K televisions. For context, we were located at an expensive outlet mall. We were literally the only electronics store in the mall and the only place for 50 miles that sold high-end electronics. Logic dictates that this in itself would make our location prime real estate and we would have record sales every year. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what happened, and we basically did well 5 years in a row. Furthermore, I got hired because I came into the store looking for some video equipment. The store manager was caught off guard by my advanced technical knowledge of camera technology because I kept asking him specific technical questions on certain models. Note, this piece of information is relevant for the end of the story. So with that preamble out of the way, let's get into the heart of the story. While working the camera counter, the mall fire marshal came in and asked to see the store manager. Since I had no customers at that moment, I decided to take him to the back to meet my manager. This verbatim is what I can remember. Me: "Hey, the fire marshal's here." Manager: "Why?" Me: "Don't know. Want me to let him in your office?" Manager: "Sure, give me a moment." Marshal: "Okay, mall management wanted me to ask when you want me to bring in the construction foreman." Me: "What, are we building something?" Looking at my rather baffled boss. Manager: "No, I didn't ask for a construction foreman." Marshal: "Well, aren't you aware of the new, overpriced clothing store that's going to be built here?" At that exact moment, I and the store manager looked at each other, then looked at the fire marshal, who handed my manager the work order on the brand new, overpriced clothing store that was going to be built at our exact location, thus permanently ending the only high-end electronics store for miles around. Part 2. Money Talks. A few days later, the manager held a store meeting with me and the rest of the team. Prior to this meeting, the manager gave me permission to tell the rest of our 12-person team about the incident with the fire marshal. So the manager confronted corporate about what was going on, and after some skillful verbatim gymnastics, we got the whole story. Manager: "So I called corporate to ask what's happening, and I'll tell you straight. Overpriced clothing store has been trying for 10 years to get a spot at this outlet mall. They went to every store with a buyout offer for the storefront. The CEO of this electronic chain was approached by overpriced clothing store with a massive check in the millions to break our lease and hand over the storefront to them. We weren't supposed to know any of this. Corporate wanted us to be in the dark right up until the last day 2 weeks from today." Yep, everyone was upset. In fact, we were so angry that all of us did the absolute bare minimum. This included the manager. In 1 week, we tanked our own sales by 70%. Corporate freaked out and sent a hatchet man to talk to the store. This doofus was confused why we weren't giving it 110% and was surprised we got visibly angry when he informed us that we wouldn't be getting severance pay or a letter of recommendation. My manager very politely told him to leave and that he would take care of the situation himself. Part 3. Oops, my finger slipped. After the hatchet man was banished from our store, the manager took a close look at the management handbook and noticed a little snafu that was written in the book in regards to discretionary discounts. Mainly that the store manager has permission to discount any product in the store up to 90% off, and the offset of the cost will be absorbed at the end of the year discretionary cost analysis. Yes, you read that last sentence correctly, and the wonderful part of this story is that the store was being shut down by the end of February. So another store meeting was held. The manager told us that 2 days before our last day, we were having a secret 90% off sale just for the employees and their family. When I heard this, I asked the question everyone was thinking. Me: "So let me get this straight. This includes every single item in this store?" Manager: "Yup. In fact, what you guys can do is pick out everything you want now and set up a little pile in the back room. Make sure you guys label everything, and I'll include the premium service warranties for free." Well, I decided to do some shopping. newfangled 240Hz 4K TV, 4K camera system, 3 5-hour spare batteries, SD cards, microphones, laptops, drives, tripods, all kinds of stuff. But wait, there's more. The manager told me I could have any of the HDMI and mini DisplayPort cables that are currently attached to the showroom TV and computer displays. On the day of the secret 90% off sale, we all showed up 2 hours early from the back entrance and bought our items. With tax, I paid about $1,153 for about $13,000 worth of brand new electronics, and in essence, gave me the necessary tools to start my own media business. As one final forget you to corporate, the manager gave all of us a phone number to a caseworker at the local unemployment office who was very sympathetic to our case. Part 4. I've never seen this man before in my life. Well, flash forward to March 2013, and I'm carefully navigating my freelance media company into a nice stream of steady work. I get an unknown phone call from a law firm representing the electronics company. Apparently, $400,000 worth of electronics were mistakenly sold at a 90% discount, and they wanted to know if I had any information on where I could find my manager. The following conversation is what I can recall to the best of my memory. Me: May I ask why you need to know this information? Law firm: Well, we believe that he woefully misused his discount privileges. Me: Okay, but could you answer a question for me first? Law firm: Sure. Me: Why did your client, the CEO of an electronic chain, take a multi-million-dollar check to break a lease on his own business and not properly inform the store staff of its impending closure? Dead silence. Me: Hello? Law firm: Sorry to bother you, sir. And that was it. The moral of the story: don't do over your employees. P.S. Boss, if you're reading this, take comfort in the fact that none of us have sold you out, and I hope you're living a wondrous life. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my daughter to my ex-husband's wedding? I'm 42, female. My ex-husband, who's 45, and I were together for 20 years. We had a beautiful daughter together, Jocelyn, who's 14. We got a divorce 5 years ago due to infidelity on his part. I was devastated. He was the love of my life, and he betrayed all of the trust and loyalty we had built up. To make matters worse, he ended up in a relationship with the woman he cheated on me with. They got engaged 1 year later and are set to be married in 2 weeks. Honestly, I still am heartbroken over my divorce. It's hurtful to me that we were together for 20 years and he could just go fall in love with someone else, as if I was nothing. However, Jocelyn was only 9 when we divorced, and he's a great father, so I would never want to come between their bond. Jocelyn loves his fiancée, as she's very sweet to her, but she doesn't know the reason why her dad and I divorced. I want to tell her when she's a bit older, and he doesn't want to tell her at all. Anyways, I compromised with him that Jocelyn could come to the wedding, but that he would have to provide the transportation to and from the wedding, as I want no part of it. I don't want to drop my daughter off at his wedding. I don't want to see all the decorations and the happy guests. It would just be too much for me. I didn't tell him all of that, obviously, but he agreed. Today he calls me and asks if he can ask for a huge favor. It turns out that his future in-laws are flying in the morning of the wedding and he has to go pick them up. Therefore, he can't pick up my daughter the day of and wanted to ask if I could take her. I said absolutely not and asked why he can't pick her up the day before when she gets off of school. He said he doesn't want to make the drive twice and then he will likely not have time as he has to prepare for the rehearsal dinner. I asked why can't the bride pick up her parents, and he said she'll be getting her hair done and won't be able to. I laughed and told him there was no way I'd take my daughter and that he'd have to figure it out. Boy, why did I say that? My daughter ran downstairs crying. Her face was red 10 minutes after my conversation with her dad, calling me terrible and accusing me of not wanting her to spend time with her dad. I told her that's not the case, and she demanded to know why I couldn't take her. I couldn't give her an answer, and she ran upstairs crying. Now I'm getting messages from his family calling me heartless and cold and a jerk for trying to ruin his special day over a relationship that is long over. My family understands my point of view, but I feel terrible that I've upset my daughter. I don't know what to do. Am I the jerk? Should I just put aside my feelings and take her? Not the jerk, but I also think your daughter is old enough to know the truth about her father. Otherwise, you will be the bad guy going forward. Not the jerk. The people he needs to pick up can get a taxi. His first responsibility should be his daughter, if he actually wants her there. And I think it might be time to tell your daughter a bit more about what happened. She's a teenager now and needs to be learning lessons about loyalty and managing relationships responsibly. Her getting the impression that this situation is alright and that you're wrong for not being happy that the ex-husband who cheated on you is getting remarried is not a good place for her to start when it comes to learning how to expect good treatment from future partners. If he thinks picking up his future in-laws is more important than picking up his own daughter, then he's very, very wrong. The adult in-laws can manage a variety of transportation options. A young teenager can't. He's showing his priorities, and it isn't his daughter, and you need to be prepared to help protect her and guide her as he continues into the future, wanting to play happy family and have his daughter go along with it while he puts her in second place to his new family. Not the jerk, but 14 is old enough to understand cheating. I would tell darling daughter that while I love her, and I love that she has a good relationship with her dad and her future stepmom, I can't handle seeing their wedding when they started dating while Dad and I were still married. Then I would ask her if she has any idea as to how she can be at the wedding without me having to see it. Sometimes teenagers are incredible out-of-the-box thinkers. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is her ex-husband? Please let us know. He's showing where his priorities lie, bruh. You should be putting your daughter first, my dude. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.